Recap in minutes. In today's video, we will be enjoying a vampire film, entitled Day Shift. There will be spoilers ahead, chill out and enjoy. The movie begins with Bud Yablonsky visits the home of a senior citizen who he pretends to be a pool cleaner. He is hired to clean the old lady's pool on the side. But Bud has already figured that this is a vampire's home. He figured he could earn a lot of money for the vampire's fang. The old lady hears Bud come in and runs to the room, where she finds Bud in his black mask, pointing a gun at her. Bud shoots the old lady, causing her to fall down and shatter her body. At first, Bud is sure he killed the old woman, but then she begins acting quite strangely. Bud starts fighting the old lady while she is still alive and fixes her bullet wounds. The old lady transformed into a terrifying monster. Bud struggles to figure out how to kill her and fails at doing so several times. But then she continues fixing the wounds herself up and going after him. Bud stabs her in the stomach this time, drawing a lot of blood, but she manages to pull through. He shot her many times, breaking her bones each time. By cutting off her head, Bud has created a strategy to end this vampire threat once and for all. Vampire Michael, the old woman's son, heard all the noise. Before he could help his mom, he fatally killed himself with the string trap that Bud had put up. Bud pulls the fangs out of their heads by promising them a fortune. Audrey San Fernando, who is also shown to be a vampire and claims to have huge plans for the Los Angeles region and its vampire population, is seen tormenting a lower-level criminal vampire named Sasha. San Fernando is also a vampire and claims to have these great plans. It is shown that she is a wealthy and powerful real estate tycoon as the camera moves to a sign that is located near a development project. When Bud gets back to his apartment, he realizes that he is struggling financially since he is overdue on his rent. After washing up, he drives to his daughter Paige's elementary school to pick her up. Despite the fact that she and her mother Jocelyn are legally still married, the two of them no longer live together. Paige gets to return home after a late night since Bud took her out for ice yogurt. Jocelyn travels with Paige to Florida to visit her mother. Bud, whose heart is breaking at the prospect of having to give up his kid, begs her to grant him some more time till Monday. His expectation is that the sale of the vampire fangs he has just gathered would bring him around $10,000, which will be sufficient to pay for Paige's braces and other costs. Jocelyn is highly suspicious of Bud that he would follow through with his pledge because his past lies were why she and Bud went their separate ways, yet, she still gives him a chance. On the other hand, Bud pays a visit to Troy, who is the shady owner of a pawn business. It is revealed that Bud is kicked out of the vampire hunting group known as the Union, which is where Bud knew he could earn the most money for the fangs. However, Troy only gives him a fraction of what Bud knows he can get for them there. Bud sends a text message to his longtime buddy Big John Elliott in the hopes that he can get him inside the casino as he needs the money by Monday. In the event that Audrey's business partner backs out of their agreement, she warns him that he might suffer the same consequences that Sasha did. She also adds that she has a product that would enable vampires to move freely during the day. Together with her underling Klaus, she travels to the residence where Bud is responsible for the deaths of the two vampires. It turns out that the elderly lady was very important to her, and as a result, she has sworn to exact vengeance on whoever was responsible for her death. Big John finds Bud waiting outside the Union, and the two of them go inside to speak with Ralph Seeger, the grumpy director who has no intention of letting Bud back into the Union due to the multiple times he has broken the rules in the past. After considerable persuasion on Bud's part, Seeger finally agrees to let him work the day shift, which is seen as lower paying and less hazardous than the night shift, which brings in much more money. In order to collect payment for Bud's fangs, he and Big John make their way downstairs to the financial department. Cashier Seth pays him a big charge at first, but after withholding repeated fees, he lowers it to a bare fraction of what it was originally. Seeger gives Seth the advice that if he wants to be promoted to the position that his superior Carol holds, he should team up with Bud and report any code violations that the latter commits in an effort to get him kicked out. Seth gives his consent, though grudgingly. As a result of Seth's presentation of a significant amount of theoretical information about vampires, Bud is left noticeably pleased, but he does not want to show it. In the meanwhile, Audrey pays a visit to Troy with the intention of intimidating him, but she ends up murdering him instead. During the first mission that the two of them work on together, Seth is instructed by Bud to remain in the vehicle, but he receives a call from Seeger, who orders him to go inside and check for any code violations. Seth, who is horrified at the massacre of the vampires, has an accident outside the vehicle and throws up. As Bud's feelings for Seth increase, he offers to drive him back to his house. After Bud has returned home, he introduces himself to Heather, a new resident in his building who says she works as a nurse and extends a warm welcome to her. The next day, Bud learns that Seth has been writing him up for multiple code infractions and has been keeping the evidence. They enter Troy's pawn store and discover that he has been murdered, with all of his teeth extracted and laid out on the counter. After then, Bud explains that he can't keep his family together without the money. Seth assures us that he will not report to Seeger. During the midst of their next mission, Bud and Seth cross with the infamous Nazarian brothers, who pretend to be audio repairmen. They work together to destroy a vampire lair, and the unidentified substance from earlier is revealed to be a vampire sunscreen, which enables them to remain exposed to sunlight for 15 to 20 minutes at a time. Seth notes that the nest is home to several species of vampires, some of whom would never voluntarily choose to coexist with one another. Bud acknowledges that he has a point, but he needs to dash off to the school to pick up Paige. Bud, who is experiencing some unease, inquires as to whether or not Paige would prefer to remain inside after they have returned home. Jocelyn brings to his attention the fact that she has been anticipating going to a birthday celebration for the last week and that he is obligated to accompany her to the event. He only agrees to it begrudgingly. While Bud is at the party, Audrey calls and warns him that she is going to abduct his wife and children if he doesn't stop seeing her. As soon as he manages to get Paige into the vehicle as fast as possible, the thugs working for Audrey begin to chase after them. He slices the throat of one of them in the parking lot, and then he engages in a high-stakes car chase while Paige is in the back seat playing on her iPad. When Bud finally brings Paige back to Jocelyn, he finds that Audrey and her men are waiting for him there. He informs his wife and children that he is a vampire hunter after having previously kept the truth from them. Bud is knocked unconscious, and when he comes to, he learns that Seth was changed into a vampire as a result of being bitten. Seth rushes at Bud because he is unable to control his hunger, and Bud ends up cutting off Seth's head. Seth's state is still precarious, nevertheless, severing his head does not cause him to pass away. This is due to the fact that he was transformed by such an uber vampire. As Bud is driving back to his apartment complex, the one and only person he has shared his secrets with, Heather, is the first person he looks for. It is revealed that Heather is also a vampire transformed by Audrey, and a short battle ensues between her and Bud. After that, Heather explains that the elderly vampire Bud killed was Audrey's daughter, who didn't become a vampire until after she had already reached her ripe old age in human years. Jocelyn and Paige are brought to a hidden hideout in an underground temple by Audrey and Klaus. In the meanwhile, Heather adds that Audrey has plans to populate the valley with vampires and make their existence more comfortable by purchasing property all across the region. When Bud, Seth, and Heather encounter several of Audrey's thugs in an abandoned shopping center, they quickly and easily eliminate them. When they were cornered, Big John came to their rescue and used his small pistol to take down a good number of their pursuers. Bud and John go inside the underground complex, where they see vampires toiling away in a laboratory dedicated to the manufacture of vampire sunscreen. They eliminate them as a threat. In the meanwhile, Klaus detects Bud's presence via his sense of smell and notifies Audrey about it. As Bud and John continue to make their way further into the underground lair, they are attacked by a group of vampires, and John ends up being bit. After Bud has passed through the gate, he locks it behind him and advises him to locate his family as soon as possible. As soon as John realizes that Bud is no longer in view, he empties the clip of his revolver on the oncoming vampires, and then he detonates an explosive device that is wrapped around his belt. In doing so, he both kills himself and his adversaries. Bud is confronted by Klaus, but just then, Heather and Seth come crashing through the ceiling and instruct him to go with his search for Paige and Jocelyn. They begin to battle Klaus, but he easily defeats them in fighting and takes control of the situation. In addition to discovering Paige and Jocelyn with Audrey, Bud also loses the fight against her. Paige sneaks up behind her and uses a wooden stick to pierce her heart from behind, just as the other person is about to give the fatal bite. However, it does not seem to have any effect on Audrey, and she quickly removes it. She throws both Jocelyn and Bud across the room in one sweeping motion. While Seth and Heather were being held in a choking grip by Klaus, the three of them banded together to rip his arms off, which resulted in Klaus's defeat. In an effort to put an end to Audrey's suffering, Bud fires his last silver bullet towards the back of her neck while the wooden stake is still lodged in her chest. On the other hand, she manages to get it between her teeth. As she makes her way nearer Bud to put an end to his suffering, he seems to be accepting of his impending death by closing his eyes. Nevertheless, a slicing sound shows that Audrey has run into his wire trap, which results in her being beheaded. Audrey's destruction comes as a result of Bud laughing cruelly at her severed head. Following the end of the conflict, everyone makes their way back upstairs, where they find Seeger in a distressed state. Seth comes to Bud's defense and rebuts every one of his charges just as the union official is about to start citing a rule in the hopes of permanently expelling Bud. Infuriated, Seeger informs Seth that he will not be being promoted to Carol's job, but Seth tells him that he is now a field man and that he will continue to fight vampires with Bud. Seeger storms out in disgust. The movie ends with Bud asking Jocelyn if he may move back into the home with her and Paige, but Jocelyn would only agrees to take things slow on the condition that Bud will only give her honest answers and quit lying to her. Paige and Jocelyn are now living in the house. She leans in and gives Bud a peck on the cheek. After climbing out of a manhole, it is discovered that Big John is either still alive or might be a vampire. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this and help the channel grow.